Good day, ladies and gentlemen. It's the Prairie Banana here with another live stream about PTDC and UFO, PTGC and UFO on the Pulse Network. The two Gray's currency assets that pay you passively day after day after day without you having to do anything. If you just want to hold the tokens, you earn reflections, they come into your wallet. And then we do a live stream. We live stream the spaces. So I'm going to be joining the spaces here because it just went live. Muddleby, it's good to see you, man. You're my buddy. You're my new buddy. Thank you so much for airing us on that thing. It was very special. I really appreciate that. I got to join the space. Nick is in there. Yay. It's been a while since I've seen Nick. And if you're new to Pulse Chain, welcome. Welcome to Pulse Chain. Here's your official in writing welcome message. Welcome for a ride. We're excited because we think we're in for a ride, a rocket ship ride. Good evening.
What's going on?
How's it going, Nick?
Going well. So I'll pop up. So I figured I'd hop in here a little bit, see what's going on in the world of alien technology, and Pulse Chain holding some key levels. So that's good.
Yeah. How's Zen doing?
What's going on, gents?
Yeah. Coon Dog. Good to see you.
Good to see you both. Zen,
hi, Zen.
And Nick.
Happy to see some guys hop up here real quick with us. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been away from the screens for the last couple of weeks, so just jumping back in and catching up with all the news. Exciting times.
Yeah.
Richard's been tweeting a bunch. That's one thing I kind of wanted to talk about today is just some of these recent tweets that Richard has put out. One of the best ones I think we've gotten in a long time is his one with the 3 bubbles on the ETH chart. There hasn't been a point in a while where I believe Richard was making some predictions on the ETH chart for what this cycle could hold. And I think his plan is obviously based off of his prediction of what ETH is supposed to do. So I think this information helps us make better educated guesses of what the plan is for Pulse Chain, what he believes ETH will do. And, obviously this helps us make decisions with PTGC as well.
I haven't even seen it yet. I haven't seen this tweet yet. I think I saw a screenshot of it, but I'm going to look at it right now.
Yeah, no, I saw it. And then, I agree 100%. I don't think it's like, it's like all of us with our core assets that we hold, that we cherish so much. We're unwilling to let them go for certain prices. And he's obviously got in his mind where he's able to let those go or start, I guess, liquidating some of those funds to then bring in to start elevating his own chain. And he just straight out won't let him go for anything under a certain amount. So I'm just going to keep it straight and simple. I reckon that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, and on top of that, he's kind of making a prediction that we hopefully, if we're using the same structure as we've used in the 2 previous move ups, we're going to be hopefully breaking into the all-time high territory of Ethereum, coming in like the next month if it follows the same structure, and then probably keeps heading upwards. And it looks like he's kind of guessing the range of like 8 to 9K on the low end, maybe 10 to 11K on the high end. If you look at like the bubbles he did previously, they weren't like hitting the top of those bubbles in any mean. They're like hovering and consolidating around 3/4 up. So I think that kind of shows us like where he thinks the healthy level of ETH this cycle will go for this alt season. And by knowing when he thinks ETH will go to that level and when that alt season will take place, by studying ETH in the past or ETH and Hex in the past, we can kind of make a pretty educated guess on like his timeline and where he thinks ETH is going. And, you know, we just assume, like, I'm going to assume that he's most likely doing somewhat of the same plan since he was so successful with it. So I kind of have like a good month window on Pulse Chain right now. Like, it still could take a month for us to start moving up, but I do think in the next month, maybe 2 months, we might see some drastic moves here. And the part I like about it is, like, we have yet to seen Richard actually chart Ethereum and kind of give us, in my opinion, a clue to the plan.
Yeah, man, to me, that is a bullish tweet coming from Richard, and there's a shift in his posture this week.
Yeah, I would agree with that sentiment for sure. And yeah, I mean, timing wise, if you think that we're in a traditional 4-year bull market, Ethereum is going to break $5,000 imminently. A week, 2 weeks, by the end of this month. So we'll see what happens. I'm on the course, and I've been on the course of saying we're going to extend into 2026. If you look at his bubbles, maybe we extend into 2026 by Richard Hart's bubbles. We'll see what happens. But overall, I think it's supremely bullish. And we did see some of that Pulse Chain sacrifice money move around. Now, is that going to Richard Hart's pocket? Is that going to make its way to Pulse Chain? Was that used to pay his back taxes as we saw the classification on the Interpol case change? I mean, if you don't think he's a scammer, the only thing you can come up with is that was $22 million worth of ETH that is going to be used to either close out the Interpol case or to pump up Pulse Chain. Well, I mean, what are your guys' thoughts on the 5,400 ETH that went moving there out of the Pulse Chain sacrifice wallet?
I think it's great. I'm very excited that it moved, because it just gives us an idea of where we don't have to think anymore. You know, the whole narrative of, yeah, we don't think it's ever going to move. He's never going to move that stuff. No, he just moved quite a bit, right? So we know he's not afraid to move it. He can move it. He is moving it. He's doing things with it. It would be great if it was to get rid of this Interpol stuff. That would be phenomenal. But I like the fact that we now know that that Ethereum reserve will be moved, can be moved. It's not just going to sit there idly. But, you know, who knows what happens from here.
The other, you know, I've been saying for a while that I think he doesn't go live until Interpol case is settled. You know, obviously you don't want to get swatted and end up in prison. But the tweet he had yesterday that I thought was interesting, the one that he said, it's crazy how low engagement I used to get. If you read further down in that tweet, it says, which also means some large portion of you still need the education because you probably missed it. Long completely annihilates short in general, meaning long-form content annihilates short-form content in general. This is why lots of firms that only long exist. But, I guess he's talking about longing and shorting the market, not content.
Yeah.
So the first time I was
talking about
that, I thought he was talking about engagement on his actual content and wanting to do long-form instead of short-form content. But, yeah, he's talking about trading. Never mind. Ignore that. It's late in the night, guys. Shut up. I thought he was hinting at long-form content. I'm like, is this guy going to come back live soon or what?
And Nick, I wouldn't mind picking up on your point before that you're in the camp of the extended cycle. So, you know, moving into 2026, whether that's mid or late 2026 or whatever it might be. But I'm still in the camp of the 4-year cycle. But it sort of leads us to the same conclusion. So the 4-year cycle means that we either top out, you know, end of this year or still January, February of 2026 would still, you know, it's a bit of a grey area, but would still land us in a 4-year cycle ending. Under that, there could be 2 scenarios at the moment. One is that Bitcoin could already have topped out, potentially, and we might see a massive rotation and a surge from ETH, you know, doing, say, a 2x over the next 2 to 3 months. or Bitcoin does have its last push up, you know, over the next couple of months towards the end of this year, and then you still have that rotation into ETH or a run from ETH, whether it happens simultaneously or just after. But that it still leads to ETH having to push up higher, whether you're in the 4-year cycle or whether you're, you know, in the camp of the extended cycle, and wanting all of our assets to start repricing themselves.
Yeah, I think either way we still have higher to go. I guess my consideration of why it could lead to an extending cycle is like, what do you think on the perspective of, you know, we were in QT for so long and now we just flipped to QE, so we're probably going to interest rate cut in October, another one in December, potentially another one early next year. Like, do you think that QE doesn't matter and you can still have already topped out, even though the markets get easier and inflation is down and interest rates are lower and money gets a lot cheaper? Usually when there's cheaper money, it finds itself into investment vehicles. Or do you think that that's kind of already priced into the markets due to the run that we've seen in traditional markets?
I think potentially it could already be priced into the markets, potentially, because there's a lot of charts now that are showing they've already topped out. There's MicroStrategy, you know, they're looking. It looks like it's starting to weakening. You know, so like the chart's starting to become a lot weaker, and there's a few other charts out there as well that look like they've already topped out. I don't know. It's a tough one to call. Either way, you know, you've got the M2 money supply, you've got the and then you've got the balance of looking at that to that industry index, which is under 50. So yeah, it's a tough one to call. But either way, I think we have that there is going to be a leg up higher in crypto, whether that's on the 4-year cycle, whether that's an extended cycle. It'll soon, you know, we'll soon find out. But all of those roads lead to ETH wanting to push up into that 6 to 8K range, for sure.
Picking the top's always hard, but you know, PTGC and the token economics it has is going to win in the ups, win in the downs, and continue to be deflationary and continue to pay passive income to its holders. So, you know, we don't really have to pick the exact top this cycle if you believe PTGC is the token economics to be multi-cycle.
I'm into that. Yeah, so that's my 2 cents on the Richard Hart tweet, the circles, the prediction of ETH. Him not wanting to relinquish his tokens for anything under a certain amount, whether that's 5, 6, 7, 8K ETH. I think you just play with the straight bat. I think that's as simple as he's making it, because he doesn't want to muck around with all of these funds. It's just too much riding on.
Yeah, I think it also kind of tells us when he believes, you know, value is going to be flowing into the markets, and we know that he's going to try to get the attention of that value. And getting the attention of that value is going to have to come from green candles, from him, you know, maybe hopping back on YouTube, at least doing some pre-recorded videos along with green candles. So obviously there is no timelines, like no one can predict the market 100%, but he is one of the best at predicting the market. And for me, I feel like he kind of gave us a little bit of a timeline, you know, hey, be patient, look at, we believe ETH is moving to this next level. That pushes, if you're looking at his bubbles, he thinks that will still be in somewhat all-time high ranges going February, March area. Like March would probably be pushing it in his bubble, but definitely looks like it could go into February. So that gives us a good solid. If you go November, December, January, February, you know, 4 months is really all you get of like a solid alt season, like from start to finish. Obviously they can be extended, they can be bigger, but I think that's a good range for our community to look in for PTDC and UFO, where we want to be kind of hitting hard and working hard and onboarding and educating, because that's where new users will be probably flowing in and wanting to learn and looking for places to set up camp. And then also for Pulse Chain in general, where maybe some value starts trickling in before or at the beginning stages of that to kind of get us, you know, front and center when it is alt season.
I think even just this little bit of a rally that Pulse Chain has had over the past couple of days, you can feel the morale and momentum shift in the Pulse Chain community. You know, I was in spaces, I don't know, last week, and the morale was horrendous. I was just lurking. I wasn't a speaker on any of them. I just wanted to kind of hear what was going on in the minds of Pulse Chain participants, and it was at all-time lows while the PLS price was still at a higher low. But now, you know, all that's kind of, now we got a lot, I hear a lot more hopium today. I hear a lot more, you know, excitement. You know, PLS went up a bit off the run. You had PTGC go up 25%. You got some new projects that launched and are doing okay. And it shows you how quick morale and momentum can change in this community in particular. There is a lot of active participants that will come back once Pulse Chain gets above key levels. And I think that just adds fuel to the fire if you do have Richard Hart either, you know, supporting the chain with his tweets or supporting the chain with monetary from his own wallets or going live or whatever. And I think, you know, Pulse Chain is going to show that, you know, it can rip and roar just like the early days of Hex and just like even the early days of Pulse Chain itself before we got into all the SEC and the Interpol and the doldrum of the down into the right for multiple years.
Yeah, I feel like Pulse Chain's morale can change drastically, even just getting close to sacrifice price at this point. It's been over a year since the community is, I think a year and a half actually, since we've seen over sacrifice price, maybe a year and a quarter. I'd have to look at the chart. So it's definitely been a while, and I feel like just making our way back towards that range, you'll see the morale of Pulse Chain just change drastically. And I bet a lot of people will start onboarding again more naturally in real life friends, especially as the plan starts to unfold. I feel like just the fact that we don't know the plan and we feel like the plan of Pulse Chain has been kind of off from a lot of our predictions and what we thought we were told. And that was one thing that I felt was nice about the tweet with the charts is for me, that was kind of a little bit of a layout of the plan, just showing ETH instead of Pulse Chain. But we know when ETH has moved up, Pulse Chain has moved up, etc. We also kind of have made a educated guess that we do think in this last move up of ETH is going to be the showtime for Richard. This is what we hope. So it, in my opinion, was a little bit of a clue for the plan for the people who are paying attention. And then for even the people who aren't paying attention, once green candles and maybe once Richard starts making the moves a little bit more obvious by telling people, you know, hey, this is what we're doing, I think it's going to give them the confidence to then, you know, start knocking on doors, making phone calls again once, you know, the opportunity is more clear.
And there's no better time for IRL onboarding of family and friends than the holidays. And Richard knows this. There's a reason that Q4s are always usually explosive for crypto, and that's because people are seeing their friends and families. And when they're starting to make some capital, they're bragging about it, getting other people to on board, sitting down, they have time to help them, days off work, days off school, whatever it is. So, you know, I think the timing lines up with the IRL tablets that have been going out, him getting more active, Ethereum moving with the Pulse Chain Sacrifice wallet, hopefully Ethereum price above 5,000. And he knows that, you know, you need the momentum and morale around Pulse Chain to be better to help onboard the family and friends this holiday season, rather than when people say, hey, how's that Pulse Chain thing going? And you just want to kind of shrug it off because, you know, the charts are red and everything's down and to the right.
Yeah, even if things are going good, you then have almost the confidence to like bring it up to people too. You know, when you have a win under your belt, and when something you invested in is doing really good and it's showing promise in sides, you almost feel like you can bring it up to people. Like, hey, I think I might have found something if anyone's interested. I put 5K in it, 10K in it, and it's now sitting at, you know, 10 to 20K. And a lot of people, because most people aren't in crypto, that's very rare to come across. Is it, you know, investments that can do those kind of X's in very short amounts of time. You know, a lot of people know Ethereum and Bitcoin, and technically Bitcoin in the last year isn't even up 2x. I think it's up like 8% the last year. Ethereum, I think, is only up like 50%. So if we start doing X's very quickly, I don't think people mind not even shrugging it off anymore. I think it now starts becoming a topic of conversation.
Did you see the video that I posted of Richard when he was in Europe talking to Eric Wall about the strategy? Did any of you see that in the Telegram group I posted this week?
I did not. Did you post on Twitter as well, or just in the Telegram group?
No. I can pop it back in there, but let me read it to you. It's very short, but this is what he said. He said, let's pretend you launched a coin and then you raised money. And then you put that money into Ethereum. And then Ethereum goes up. And then you dump it. And then you have a fat stack of cash. I bet if you reinvested it into your original coin, you could have actually net put more into the coin than you took out. Do you get it? Eric says no. Richard says, I can't say it any more clearly.
Yeah, man, I remember that interview, actually. It's pretty funny.
He literally says, imagine I launch an ecosystem.
It's like,
Then
sorry, man, I
imagine
can't help you. I can't help
And
you.
then imagine I have a raise of money and capital. And then I put that capital into Ethereum. And then Ethereum goes up.
Yeah.
And then I take that money and I put it back into the system. It's literally what he says word for word, guys.
Yeah.
And
And
the fact the interview couldn't understand that just as like, really? Like, I remember that video now. It's like, yeah,
Eric,
pretty clear.
it's not that Eric couldn't understand it. He didn't want to understand it. You know, he's just that mimicry type protagonist. But going back to what you were saying before, you know, if what we're saying is legitimate, what that actually means is that right now is the best time to onboard everybody you know.
Yep, and he also
It's not after the fact. It's not after a 2 or 3x or 4x from here. It's actually right now.
He also had that tweet, didn't he? That he said something like, a lot of people don't like to sell things for cheaper than they bought it, which could kind of be taken as, you know, he doesn't want to sell his Ethereum until he's well in the green. So let Ethereum get above 5,000, 6,000, maybe he starts rolling it in, and then if it gets to 9,000, 10,000 and he thinks it's the top, well, you know, he'll probably be selling all that as well. So that would line up with his communications over the years, and that would make a lot of sense. It's kind of what a lot of us speculated. He just full ported that sacrifice wallet at a local top, and we had to wait a lot longer than we thought, and obviously a lot longer than Richard thought. Otherwise, he wouldn't have bought it up there when the Ethereum ETFs were first launched.
Yeah, I guess, you know, it's just everything just seems to be lining up, but you have to take his word. You have to take him on his word. He literally tells you the plan in 30 seconds to Eric Wall.
Yep. Yep.
I can't say it any clearer.
Buy ETH, sell ETH for more money, put more money into Pulse Chain assets. That's pretty much the summation.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and
you know
the part that he says, just one sec. The part that he says is, I bet if you reinvested it into your original coin, you can have actually net put more into that coin than you took out. Do you get it? Because I can't say it any more clearer.
Yeah, as in it's a win-win for the founder, it's a win-win for the creator, and then all the investors as well.
Yep.
And
But that
like
tweet
I said,
today where he's dropping that F-bomb, to me,
yeah,
it's starting to feel like the old school Richard, man.
yeah, true, man. And you know what? Maybe we don't get him. Maybe he doesn't come back to live stream, and maybe he doesn't come back to doing, you know, live chats and interviews and everything. But this, yeah, this definitely feels like the old Richard, and this definitely feels like the plan. It's just taken so long for ETH to move this cycle. Did it take this long for ETH to move the last cycle? Maybe it did. Was it ETH? I think ETH didn't run.
No, I need to do some measurements, but you know that like 4-phase chart that everybody shares.
Yeah.
Like, it really seems like that's why I'm also leaning towards the extending of the cycle. Now, maybe it's a little out there, but we used to be on a 4-year business cycle. Well, after COVID, we're on a 5-year business cycle as far as the refinancing of debt globally. So, I mean, if Bitcoin is just because it moves because it's on the 4-year business cycle, would it then change to the 5-year? And you also have the extending of these phases. Phase 1 is the Bitcoin phase. Arguably, it's still going on. You know, arguably, we're like in phase 2 only. And really, by this point in most cycles, we'd be in like phase 3. So, I don't know. We have to do some measurements. And it's all speculation, but, you know.
No, it definitely has credibility there on what you're saying. And, you know, you don't want markets to be completely, everyone's thinking one way. You want markets to be unsure of the length of time. You want markets to be unsure of whether we're going up or down, because if everyone's or majority of the market's leaning one way, then you know how it goes 9 out of 10 times. So, yeah.
And the other thing about, will we see Richard again? I think he will, but I think it's going to be really hard for Richard not to want to come live or not to want to go on a Glory Report or try to get on those interviews again with everybody who doubted him, only when price is much higher. Like if price does well and it gets back up to SAC and people are winning, maybe the morale momentum is there, we're all winning, but maybe he doesn't go live. But if price, say, does a 50x or something from here, I don't think Richard Hart can bite his lip and not go live and do a little bragging and try to get on interviews with all these people that doubted him. I just think his ego and his mantra just will force him to want to get live and brag. I don't think he can.
Imagine if he didn't, Nick.
That would be wild.
Because that would mean that Pulse Chain's full blown, just a decentralized setup, and Richard has no desire to come back in that sense. He did it, and he doesn't even need to come back.
Well, yeah, that's my train of thought, Bender. I'm thinking, he's thinking long term. He's looking at the bigger picture than anyone else.
But I'll be honest, I really hope that doesn't happen.
And I think, for decentralization aspect, I think that makes a lot of sense. But if you also listen to Richard's words, he's talked shit on Satoshi in the past for disappearing. He's talked shit on IOHK. He's talked shit on bad leadership from Vitalik. Like, if you're going to talk shit on other
I'd like him to
think he would want to be
as active as CZ or Vitalik.
Right.
At least as active as those guys, man.
Yeah. I mean,
and I'd love to see some people actually partner up with Pulse Chain on a bigger level once it all happens.
If that happened.
Yeah. My thought process is, he's made those comments in the past and he wanted to be better founders than them. And those guys are live and they're out there doing stuff. Like CZ's on a interview tour with people with 500 followers all the way to the thread guy with 100,000. I know Richard wants to do that. And I'm hoping that my thesis about he's going to wait till after Interpol to kind of be in the clear to do that is correct. But again, it goes with the market not knowing. Some people don't want him back. Some people do. Some people don't think he will. I mean, the not knowing and the speculation is what drives and fuels markets. And the more volume, the better. PLS is deflationary from volume. You got PLSX deflationary from volume, PTGC. But ultimately, I think Richard Hart isn't going to just disappear in the wind, in my opinion. And I think he's going to make a comeback in a big way, especially when price starts to go up. Because right now, if he went live, it's going to be a cesspool of fucking losers. If he did interviews, all they're going to point to is his price chart.
Yes.
If he comes back when prices is looking better, then his live chats are better. They're one argument of, look at your performance against Bitcoin. That's what all these guys would argue, all the big interviewers. Well, if price catches up with Ethereum or Bitcoin, that argument's out the window. And now they actually got to comment on the tech, which is really a system state of Ethereum. Now they got to comment on the community, which is going to be very vibrant and active by then. So a lot of their arguments against him being a scammer kind of go out the window with price performance.
That's a fair point, Nick. That really is. There's a question on YouTube. Can somebody please clarify the statement made about RH's Interpol classification? What details changed, if anything? Does anybody have any information on RH's Interpol?
I mean, as far as I understand, the only information we have came from Nuclear Herbs on that post that shows that the processing is been updated as of, I think it was what, last month or just a few days ago.
October 2nd, I believe.
Was that
Yeah.
confirmed in connection with RH? I didn't see his name on it.
Oh yeah, it's directly from the Interpol website.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, Nuclear Herbs does. He posted everything. I retweeted it. A lot of people started sharing it, but yeah, it's directly from Interpol. It basically just shows that the case connected to him specifically had an update on the 2nd of October that's been processed.
Perfect. Thank you, Mando.
And when did the ETH get tornado cashed?
I want to say
Was
it was
was that a couple days right after that, or a couple days just before that?
I thought it was a couple days after that.
Ooh, good question.
I gotta look.
Good question.
The other thing is, I don't know what the tax season in other parts of the world, but here, October 15th is the final tax filing date, and we do know it's a tax case with Interpol. So, I mean, I don't know. I want to be hopeful. All the coincidences lining up. Changing of Interpol status, $22 million moving right around the final period for tax purposes, and it's a tax case of the Interpol. I mean, pay the fine and move on with your life could be the play.
Yeah, Nick, and also if you think about it, I'm not positive. Like what you're saying is right. If he came back to stream now, it'd be a disaster because of price action and everything else. But let's say that, it so happens that price action starts moving into green candles and aligns exactly with, say, this Interpol case, tax resolution, coming into the end of this year, maybe pushing into early next year. And all of these things just seem to align where he's then able to switch and come back and start streaming. I mean, that could be the play. That could actually happen. And maybe
that's
it was a
literally
master
Valhalla
plan,
glory,
man.
bro. That's
Well,
literally
that's it, man.
glory.
And meanwhile, if he thinks Ethereum's topping in March and then he sells it all, while price action on Pulse Chain's good, price action on the other networks is kind of topping out, and he's sitting on 500 to 700 million in cash that can be used to prop up Pulse Chain if he wants to, send extra green candles to get some more onboards before the next bear market. I don't know what his thesis will be around that, but that kind of goes with the video Mando was talking about. Is ETH goes up, you sell the top, and you're sitting on a fat stack of cash to support the chain and the projects that you want to support.
Yeah, and that's where we could see fireworks. And that's potentially, this could be this 4D chess that everyone has always speculated on.
Dude, imagine he just doubles that value and he's sitting on like 1.5 billion freaking dollars. Literally.
And then he locks
Oh
half
my
of that
God.
in. That'd be amazing, man.
Oh yeah, I mean, he can literally just keep half to himself and just. I mean, it's retarded the amount of firepower the guy would have, and that's why, to me, it's just crazy. If what we are speculating happens, he literally has the opportunity of a lifetime to take Pulse Chain into the glory run, this bull run, man. Most chains, most L1s have done maybe a 10x, 20, 30 tops, maybe. It doesn't take much to have Pulse Chain be the top performing L1.
Yeah, you're saying this cycle. Yeah, that's what the top L1s have done. Yeah, I mean, Pulse Chain could get to the top of that list very, very quickly, very easily.
Yeah, and I don't think anything we're saying is really too far-fetched. And I think that was Richard's plan all along based on his own words. I just think the extension of the cycle, or, the dragging out of Bitcoin price action and everything else, the tariff FUD that caused markets to drop, kind of messed up the timing because he full ported those SEC funds. What was it, like December of 2024, near the high? And, then we went all the way down to 1,400, and he didn't panic think so. He held through it. He weathered the storm. And now we're sitting here at 4,300 in slight profits. And now the market continues. I just think you had that black swan with the tariff FUD that kind of slowed everything down, along with the potential elongating of the cycle. And, I think this was his plan. He gets stuck in the trade. And he even said, people don't like selling things cheaper than what they bought them for. So hold tight if you're an Ethereum bull. We got to wait for the cycle to play out, and then we got a shit ton of money to play with.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And doesn't matter who anyone is, nobody's God, and no God can predict timing in the markets. So you've just got to stick to your course, and the timing has to play out, however that short or long may go. And that's literally where we're sitting right now. Which is going to put PTGC in an amazing position once all this starts kicking off.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say, Zen, what are your thoughts on this, and how does it affect kind of the decision-making around PTGC and the Dow funds and everything else?
Yeah, like I was saying, it's nice to have another clue to what the plan is, because the more clues we get from Richard on what his plan could be, helps us make better educated decisions for how to utilize Dow funds, how to start transitioning into stables for our own individual ecosystem. That's one thing that's nice about our protocol is, we can do another nice push, just like we've done a few times in the past. The strategy that we're using the funds to push when the market's pushing upwards has worked multiple times in the past. So I don't see a reason why it doesn't work this time as well. But then also this time's a little bit different because we actually do believe we're getting close to the end of this cycle. So now that we have a chart on Richard's end, when he thinks Ethereum should be topping out roughly, most likely his plan for Pulse Chain will be based on what he believes ETH will be doing. So then this helps us make educated decisions on when to start transitioning some of the Dow funds into stable coins for reserves for the bear market to help this protocol become a multi-cycle system, and also create larger LP pairs with stable coins. Not so much to hedge ourselves against the downtrend, because we will have so much liquidity with RH assets at that time. Obviously, we'll probably take some of the riskier ones and transition those to stable coins. But also the ability that we will have to pair with stable coins and generate revenue off of the market shifting up and down with those stable coin pools. A lot of people don't realize that, since PTGC's existed, we haven't really been paired with stable coin pools. We haven't been paired with stable coins in liquidity pools because we don't want to be anchoring ourselves to lower levels. We want to anchor ourselves to higher levels. So a stable coin is interesting because usually all of our liquidity pools move somewhat together, because when value flows into RH tickers, it kind of lifts everything up due to bonded liquidity. But stable coins don't move with the market. So this will be a unique way that PTGC can actually generate even more revenue throughout the bear market, because if we can get this pool large enough, we'll have a specific pool that isn't moving with the market day in, day out, which will be a great value generation source for our ecosystem, throughout the whole entire bear market. We've gotten to see what PTGC can do in pretty much one of the worst environments you can imagine. The blockchain launches, we kind of wait for what we believe is the bottom. I think PTGC was created at half of SAC price or something like that, close to that. And the market started moving up, and PTGC was doing really well in that market move up. But then, Pulse Chain then went and made a lower low, and then went up again, didn't make a higher high or anything. It got knocked back down very early, and then went again to make a lower low. But what we've been able to see is the PTGC ecosystem be able to thrive even in this very difficult environment, generating lots of revenue. I've been looking at the revenue we've been able to generate just in the last year. I even made a post about, where it's been today. And with just the blockchain revaluing higher, not crazy numbers, just what you would think even just a general successful blockchain would be at. Not Richard's blockchain, obviously. We know Richard could pump this thing to crazy, mind-blowing numbers that if that was to happen, PTGC would just become like this monster of a decentralized protocol on the chain that I don't even like playing with those numbers because it just starts to scare me as far as a financial instrument. But even like the more subtle numbers, like a 50x from here, which, you know, keep in mind a 50x from here is only like I think a 13x from SAC price, if I'm correct, which a 13x from SAC price, if before when Pulse Chain launched, if you told everyone all you were getting was a 13x of SAC price, I think a lot of people would be bummed, but we are so low at these levels. That's like a 50x from here. And when you do numbers, even just a 50x from where we are today, it becomes very, very interesting. The value generation becomes substantial due to the amount of liquidity we have at these lower levels. More liquidity we have, the more market makers have to shift. And, you know, I actually did a little experiment today just showcasing, you know, 50x the price if market makers are just doing what they do and people are moving 50x the money. You know, just the automatic buy and burn daily is $50,000. Just the automatic LP ad daily is $50,000. The amount of DAO funds getting generated daily is like $200,000. But it has that kind of value generation happening daily, where 100% of that revenue actually gets to be used for the ecosystem itself. Most other successful protocols that exist in DeFi aren't autonomous, aren't automated. There's tons of overhead associated with it that are constantly getting paid out, to where the value that does get generated from that specific protocol, very, very small amounts of it actually go back into the protocol. It's actually crazy how little amount of value actually goes back into the ecosystem. But with this system, because there's no overhead and because it's just code on a blockchain, we made it to where with this blockchain being successful, with Pulse Chain playing out just remotely successful, it could technically become like one of the best store of value systems that exists, because of it being so decentralized, because of it being so automated, because it pays you APY just for holding, because it's deflation just written in the code, and then it also would have 50 times liquidity or more, you know, depending on how quick we're adding, etc. I do believe it's a product a lot of people are looking for, and it's awesome to see, in my opinion, that Richard has a plan. He's showing us where we can actually look at the previous token that he's created and seen how he's used ETH in the past to push that token up. Obviously, it's not like verifiable that he's the one that pushed EHEX up, but if you look at it, it's like the same exact plan on repeat. People actually turned their ETH into HEX. You were able to mint HEX for free if you had Bitcoin, but not if you had Ethereum. If you had Ethereum, you actually had to transition your Ethereum for EHEX. And then that Ethereum all went into a wallet, and I think it got mixed and stuff. So if I had to guess, that ETH was used to get EHEX going, right? And probably only a portion of it. He probably has a lot of that ETH still sitting around, and we look at only his SAC wallet. We forget the amount of ETH that he took in for EHEX, and I'm guessing he didn't use all of it. He probably used just a fraction of it. But
no, he didn't.
To me,
He didn't have to
like
use it.
You don't think he had it, or?
Well, some of it, but not nearly what, because there was such a massive amount of people that went into the AA. You know, he didn't have to use a ton of it. And that
I don't think he used a ton of it at all. Yeah, I don't think he used a ton of it. I bet you everything over like a penny, I think probably all came from just natural onboards, the FOMO kicking in and the
100%.
Legitimate alt season taking place. Like when you hopped in YouTube at that time, like Hex was taking over because it was such a winner. It was a product. It had the community behind it, and it was an actual active community that was actually producing content. Obviously, that just rolled into the launch of Pulse Chain and Pulse X and Sacrifices, which just put fuel on the already burning hot fire. He knows what he's doing so well. If you look at just what he's done in the past and think that he doesn't have some sort of a plan set up for the future of Pulse Chain, where I honestly believe he has all of his ammo already placed in front of him. And it's just the point to where he knows what he's going to use this cycle. And it's just the fact that the ideal person for him to shoot at is just not in front of him yet. It's retail. It's the people actually coming into blockchain. There's currently the situation where there just isn't a lot of people flowing throughout cryptocurrency. So why would he waste his ammo now? Wait until they all come to you. Wait until you see them all. And I think it's going to be new thing after another, green candle after green candle. Streaming comes out, single-sided staking comes out. Some other things that probably has been happening for the last 2 years that his devs were working on that none of us even know about will come out, and it will just be thing after thing after thing. And most likely, I think there will be a reason that people stay on chain or give up some of their value in some way, either like an APY built into Pulse Chain where you put your PulseX, Hex. Obviously, Hex is already built into it, but I think there is going to be something that comes out that kind of keeps this whole thing going till next cycle, kind of like he did with Hex and into Pulse Chain and PulseX.
No, I can tell you that's exactly what happened.
The perfect thing would be a stable coin, right? Like, hey, I'm coming out with my own stable coin. Give your value up now. You're going to earn APY on this, blah, blah, blah. It, could be something like that. And then where users would win, like Pulse Chain community would win, is if they're sacrificing or whatever. Hopefully not a sacrifice. Hopefully it's just like how he did Hex, where it's a transfer, where the product's already built and it's ready to come out, and you transition your Pulse or PulseX into the stable coin. And obviously we hope the features are better than other stable coins out there, to where you are technically getting out of volatile assets near a top, but you're not actually having that value leave the blockchain itself. Because we do have to come to a conclusion, like, that value has to stay on chain for this chain to be successful. Everyone can't just run up everything 100x and everyone walk away with every penny. So there has to be a reason to stay. And Richard's obviously super smart and knows all this stuff. So I think he's going to have a pretty good reason for everyone to stay. I do think some people will leave with all, some people will leave with a little, some people will leave with something in between. But I do think he'll have a good incentive to stay on this chain. That most likely involves, sort of APY and less volatile assets. And then by him putting less volatile assets on his chain, if that's a stable coin made by him, etc., he could then bond his assets with that stable coin, making it to where his assets are less volatile as well, making it to where they don't pull back as much either. But it is nice, like going back to what we started the conversation about, is by him putting that ETH chart, him showing that the ETH chart with the bubble, it's a cool chart or a cool drawing, a cool markup he has on it, because it gives us a price and a time frame. So two of the main things we're looking for as far as information, we're looking at how high he thinks ETH is going to go and what's his target prices possibly to start utilizing funds. And it's also giving us a time frame when. And that's the big one I think is a lot of people have been struggling with, is like, hey, when? Because a lot of people have been here for 4 years and they're getting exhausted thinking when. Well, for me, I now kind of have a time frame that I'm looking for, for maybe not necessarily like guaranteed price action, but if ETH gets into that range and we're not seeing serious price action as far as Pulse Chain goes, and we don't see strong activity and we don't see new things flowing out in Pulse Chain making its way into above sacrifice price, I'll start to get a little bit concerned. That's the last thing that I'm waiting to verify, is I believe Richard's waiting for ETH to revalue, and then he's going to revalue his chain with obviously the gains he makes on that ETH. The amount of ETH that he has, with ETH just going up like another 50%, literally just a portion of the ETH he has, that 50% gain, can buy out any weak hands in a matter of weeks on his chain. But if he doesn't wait for the revaluation, he obviously is going to have to tap into probably more of that ETH than he wants to buy out weak hands on his chain. But if he can just let the ETH revalue, he's literally letting retail that came into ETH buy out all his weak hands. He's just being the vessel that transfers that value from ETH to his chain. He doesn't even need the users to come to his chain. He's just letting them come into ETH, and then he'll move the value over for them.
That's exactly right.
He talks about it a lot in like some of his older videos. You know, you look at any crypto asset and you have to ask yourself, like, are big players going to buy this? And he was more talking about like, hey, is governments and huge companies going to get into these sub-alt tokens? Like, which sub-alt tokens is it? Or are they just going to buy ETH and Bitcoin? So, you know, I even asked myself this with PTGC and UFO. Like, we want to design any product to make it to where it's actually a product that big users, at least, maybe it's not countries or governments, countries or companies, but at least large whales want to participate in these assets, because this is the only way these assets are going to get to the next level. They can't only be based on small players interacting with them. They have to have the features that massive whales are looking for to get to the next level, to get into the top 100, top 50 of cryptocurrencies. You have to have the features they're looking for. But you have to also ask yourself, in Rick's shoes, he has to be asking himself, like, are the governments and countries and companies and retail going to flow into Pulse Chain this cycle? The answer might not be yes right off the bat. It might have to have green candles first. So if you are the person that has to make the green candles, the best thing you could probably do is just hold the asset that you know that the countries and governments are going to flow into. And then when they put all the value in that asset, because you're such a big player in it, you can literally just vampire it into your system within one swoop with probably even quite a little amount of what your actual holdings are. So you actually didn't even need them to buy your asset. You just waited for them to buy the asset that you knew about before them. And then by you rotating into your asset, you most likely are going to eventually attract them to your next asset again, making them have to buy the bags from you twice. Like you see like you see players do this all the time on smaller scales with just rotating to different alt tokens. Like you'll even see people do these, like skilled people on Pulse Chain. They'll find the undervalued Richard ticker and they'll hype it up and they'll put their own money in, get that thing cooking, start bragging about it. Then the other people on Pulse Chain will rotate into it, and then they'll just rotate out of it and rotate into the next lower priced RH ticker, and then go start hyping that one up. And then the average person will be like, oh, damn, like I need to get into this one now. And then they're just always following the person that's actually creating the market, because that person's willing to buy the thing when it's still undervalued. They're the one that puts it up higher in value, and then the average person will just rotate in behind them. If you look at countries and governments, they're just the average person rotating in behind the actual people who speculated early. Richard's obviously someone who speculated early, so he gets to reap the benefits of these big players buying the bag from him. And he can rotate to his chain, and if he makes his ecosystem a good enough environment to where they actually want to play, and that's what I really hope I believe he's figured this out better than everyone. I think he's actually built a chain that everyone is looking for, just they don't know it yet. And I feel like even a lot of the people within Pulse Chain don't even realize it yet, because they don't know the whole plan. He isn't giving the plan out, because I think if he gives the plan out, people will copy it. So he has to actually do the plan in real time without, giving up all his secrets. But if he actually can create an environment that the largest players want to participate with, he'll be financially rewarded more than anyone. So it makes sense. Banana, you have any other RH tweets that stand out to you?
I was cruising through them just a little bit ago. I can get my eyes back on them. I was going to see if anybody. Go ahead, Mando.
No, go ahead if you got something. If not, I got something.
No, please go. Yeah.
So I was just looking at the amount of tokens that are being burned yesterday, and with just the amount of volume, there's currently like, what is it? What is in the pool now in the LPs? Zen, do you know?
So I'd have to look into PTDC. I don't have my computer in front of me. Maybe, but
I do.
Talk to.
I do. The last time I looked, there was about 9 billion, but we can go look.
Okay, so 3% of supply, pretty much.
Yeah, 3% of supply is in LPs, and even at the volume right now, we're burning 1 billion every 90 days. Right? And it's
is that going off of yesterday's 24-hour burn rate?
Yeah, so I'm just taking like an average, but yeah, it can go up, it can go down, but I'm assuming it's going to go up, right? And obviously, as the price goes up, you burn less tokens, so I get that too. But
well, I think yesterday was a good example because it's just all machine burning. The DAO isn't participating in buying and burning at all right now. This is just the automated buy and burn within PTDC and the automated buy and burn within UFO buying and burning PTDC. Right.
That's right, and that's why the post came out and it said that that this doesn't even include. I think if you guys saw the post that came out, it doesn't even include the DAO doing anything. Right, which from the automatic, it's just a 0.5. It's not a 2%. So it's like I don't think that people really understand the scarcity of PTGC and UFO on a mega uptrend. I just don't think that people understand how fast the price can go because there's only 9 billion in the pool. The system can't, there's only, the system is only able to buy what's in the pool. It's not like it's pulling it from somewhere else. Yeah.
The DAO has to buy out of that liquidity pool, and then UFO has to buy out of that liquidity pool, etc. Yeah, I was kind of even thinking about like the fact that you can technically get 30 million tokens right now for roughly $5,000. But and obviously as price goes up, that, as people buy those 30 million, 5,000, 5,000, 5,000, price will go up and, the remaining become more expensive. But even if you just think about that, there's only 10,000 people who can hold 30 million tokens. A lot of them are already held. If there actually is an inflow of users that come to Pulse Chain, keep in mind there's pretty much been zero inflow of new users since Pulse Chain launched. There has been an inflow of users, obviously, but there's less value on the chain today than when the chain launched. Technically, more people are leaving than coming is where I'm getting at, right? And we've been able to constantly onboard and educate in this environment where there's just people leaving constantly. What happens if there's actually an inflow of users coming in through the doors of this blockchain? Well, there's only 10,000 holders that can even hold 30 million.
But that's even high. That's even a high number because that's at this price. And,
well, yeah, dude, they can't hold that much because there's the debt address. There's players who are just not even willing to let their tokens go because they plan on utilizing PTGC for what it's been designed for, just the APY, and they're actually utilizing it as a store of value. So really, there isn't 10,000 slots open. There's only 9 billion even out there. Divide.
Your phone is covered up, Ben. Can't hear you.
If you divide so if you divide 9 billion by 30 million, you're at 300. So if you take current liquidity pool, there's only 300 slots left for 30 million. And the rest, and literally no one has even came into Pulse Chain yet. And there's only 300 slots. That slot is currently $5,000. The DAO is buying.
Go ahead.
You just made a post yesterday about how like a third of that is getting bought daily just by the code, right?
Which is the slimmest amount of auto buy and burn. It's that doesn't include current buyers buying more. It doesn't include new people coming in. It doesn't include new holders that are already on Pulse Chain taking positions. It doesn't include the DAO buying. It doesn't include the future revenue that comes in at a higher velocity buying, right? And it doesn't include the reflexivity aspect, which you really have to bring that into the conversation in terms of the speed at which the price goes up from that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that when other assets start going up, it starts sucking out of the other remaining liquidity pools. Because if HEX is going up and other assets aren't, the reflexivity of other assets, people are going to try to get at that HEX and that LP pool, and we're offering that HEX to them for a cost. It's in our liquidity pool. We're the ones that bought it. Well, the only way someone could ever get at the HEX in our liquidity pool is by how, Mando? By trading the PTGC for it. Well, if this specific user doesn't have PTGC, or for an example, an arbitrage bot is what it normally is. It's just a user wanting to buy HEX. They're going into the auto, or they're trying to buy it, and then they buy probably for a higher price, and then the arbitrage is going to fix price. But so an arbitrage bot needs to move this value around. The only way they can get that HEX out of that liquidity pool is buying PTGC out of another. And like we just talked about, there is only so much PTGC. So you're not only competing against the DAO, you're not only competing against the code, you're not only competing against the new users, you're also competing against the people who just want to get HEX, against people who just want to get PulseX, people that just want to get most token, pump token, anything that we're bonded to. Because the only way they can get it out of our liquidity is by getting PTGC first.
Yeah, and I don't know if you have the ability to look it up, Prairie, but if you go to that pampy.app site,
okay, I'm on it.
PAMP, if you just use the toggle to do 100 million, just 100 million of inflow, and just press calculate on an even split.
Okay.
What is the X's HEX does? With 100 million of inflow.
Okay, I got to back up because I clicked on price simulator, even split.
And then you see where there's like a little toggle and it says reserve, and you can just kind of toggle the number. It says reserve, and then underneath of it, it says ETH 4213 currently.
Is that under the little settings?
Yeah, it's price appreciation simulator.
Yep.
You go down, and then it says there's a calculate button, and then it says reserve. And
yes.
It's got the little bar. You can go back and forth.
Yeah.
Put that at 100 million.
Okay.
And then hit calculate.
Okay. 100 million. And you said you wanted even split.
Yes.
Even split 100 million calculate. Here we go. That was with no sell pressure, no changes in the LP. You want to know what it will do to PLS?
I want to know all of them. So it starts with hex. What's hex?
Hex 702X, Pulse X 447X, Pulse 178X, Inc 720X.
So what is that? An average of like a 500X? That
Yeah,
seems
yeah.
like it's about a 500X average.
Yeah,
So
roughly.
with 100 million coming in, no changes to LP. We're not talking about sell pressure yet. That's a 500X on average with just $100 million coming into the chain. What the hell do you think that does to protocols like Grace?
2500X.
With just 100 million. So back that off 90%. Let's do 90% sell pressure, right?
Okay.
Well, Mando, real quick, a lot of people want to include sell pressure, but you can talk about a net positive flow into the chain, right? Like
all
what
day
we
long.
just illustrated is $100 million net flow positive into the chain. That's not out of the question, in my opinion. It's a blockchain. It's worldwide.
That's a very small amount, man.
Yeah, like,
It's
and if
very
you
little.
included 90% sell pressure, just say it like this: like, hey, we just are going to say a net positive of 10 million coming over the chain, because every single day there's going to be money flowing in and there will be money flowing out. This is, we've watched this forever. That's why the price is currently down, is there's more money flowing out than flowing in. But it's definitely not out of the question to say, hey, 4 months from now, I think that we could be positive 100 million over the bridge. And
Yeah,
that's the example
that
we
basically
just did.
10. If you're talking 10 million cash straight through, it's basically 10x is the whole damn system.
It does. It does. Average of 10x, which would put PTDC at about a 50x and at just over a penny. PTDC would be just over a penny with a 50x.
Yeah, on this little calculator I was playing with today, I actually made a post with PTGC at a 50x, and I can pull up the post real quick. 1 second. So at first I was just showing what our daily volume was at, what the value generation was, which it was a in-between day. It was $182,000 of daily volume. And the amount of revenue that PTGC took in was $9,103. That went $3,600 to the Dow, $1,820 to Reflections, $910 to the buy and burn of PTGC, $1,820 to Stakers, and then $910 to liquidity with PLS. But then what I did was I threw in a 50x. What we're simulating is, a 50x on the chain, or just a 50x to the PTGC ecosystem, taking an educated guess that we could see like 50x to volume as well, because all of our liquidity pools are 50x bigger because, the assets we're bonded to moved up as well. It could be a little less, it could be a lot more, based on human interaction as well, users, if they're buying and selling, etc. But it's fair to guess that we would increase our volume evenly with the blockchain, because all the data that we've collected for the 2 years is telling us this. But then what that would create on a daily basis for the PTGC ecosystem as far as value generation would be $455,000 a day.
Oof.
So that's $182,000 going to the Dow daily. That's $91,000 going to PTGC holders daily. $45,000 going to the buy and burn of PTGC daily. $91,000 to stakers, keep it and stake PTGC and earn roughly 150% more APY just for staking it. And then that would be $45,000 a day going to LP with PLS.
It's
don't
insane,
know.
Zen.
Yeah, I don't know what over years and years, because I plan on Pulse Chain being here for decades, for as long as Ethereum exists, as long as blockchain exists, and PTGC is not going anywhere. It's decentralized, renounced, burnt LP code on this blockchain. The community could even dissolve into thin air and it will still run and do its thing every single day and generate the revenue, obviously at lower levels throughout the community, but you get what I'm saying. It's here forever, no questions asked. And I don't know, like, I have predictions, but I'm excited to see how this machine can grow and expand and sustain growth as the blockchain we're built on moves up with us, instead of us just moving up and then, obviously people on chain being in profits and seeing nothing else in profits and rotating out, like everything moving up together. But more importantly, our value generation growing with us. So we have $50,000 of LP being added automatically with code daily, $50,000 of buying happening daily just from PTGC. This doesn't include UFO or the DAO. You have $200,000 of APY being paid out to holders and stakers. And that being said, I'm saying all this because I wanted to bring up what PTGC is today is not what PTGC will be in the future, as far as all those things we just listed. But what we have the opportunity of today is lock ourselves into certain size positions at a discount. Because most likely, when the revaluation happens and when PTGC runs at these levels that we were just explaining, you will not be able to afford the position that you're looking for, most likely, unless you hit like a bunch of winners on Pulse Chain, or you could then, I guess, rotate there and it could feel somewhat even. But also, more importantly, for maybe family and friends or someone in real life that you want to mention it to, if you want to get them in for the revaluation of Pulse Chain, because if they're not in Pulse Chain, they're not in assets moving up as fast as PTGC, their chance of getting a decent sized position could disappear drastically. And by locking in a decent sized position, you're locking yourself into the liquidity. You're locking yourself into technically a percentage of that buy and burn, because you're the one that holds the asset that's getting bought and burned. You're locking yourself into the APY based on your position size, etc. So I don't know. I just really think it's important to look at PTGC and study what it is. You can speculate it on today. Obviously, the people who speculated on Ethereum and Bitcoin and B and Solana in the early days were buying something for what it could be in the future. Obviously, some people just bought it and flipped it for a 2x. But look at how it evolved over time. And then think how PTGC and Pulse Chain and UFO can evolve over time too, and what we could actually be holding in the future. A system that actually generates $500,000 daily just with the chain being remotely successful.
I've got a question for you, Zen, that came off of YouTube. Do you think that we would have burned, like back in the day, like 2 years ago, do you think we would have burned more PTGC by this point or less?
So in the early days, we were buying and burning a lot of supply, if that makes sense, but the value wasn't much.
Uh-huh.
So like, for an example, like we got to 5, 6, 7% very, very quickly because prices were so cheap. So it was easy for us to work our way through that supply. As we pushed higher, it did slow down percentage-wise because we obviously went up in price. So percentage of supply, I think it's pretty much on point. If you look at how much we've actually injected into the chart, it's a crazy amount of money with UFO included, with PTG. For an example, I have even just the last year, and keep in mind in the last year,
You're muted again.
You're kind of drowned out, brother.
Yeah, so in the last year, we haven't even been above SAC price. But looking at PTGC, the PTGC machine has generated $4,668,000 in revenue in just the last year. Automatically, that's $466,000 of PTGC that's been bought and burned just by the 0.5% fee. We've generated $1,867,000 in the Dow. Obviously, the Dow hasn't only did buy and burns. If we say, let's say 25% of that, I think that's completely on the low end. I would put it maybe closer to 50%. But let's say around $500,000, $600,000 from the Dow went to buy and burns as well. So we're automatically over $1 million in just the last year of buy and burns from PTGC. That's buying out a lot of people. Even if you don't specifically see it on the chart itself, that's a lot of people who have sold their positions that we've went and took in those positions that people have sold, bought it back, and transferred those funds to the strongest hands possible, the debt address. And hold on, I'm going to hop over to UFO real quick because I have UFO's info as well.
Yeah, and if Pulse Chain did just a drip of what we think it could do, that would be 20 million, 30 million, 50 million, not 5 million.
Yeah, like a 10x of Pulse Chain if we can withstand those levels for a year, right? And keep in mind, like the average price of Pulse Chain in the last year is like below 405. I think it's like 404. Not too impressive. So a 10x from there would be 4x SAC price. So if we're able to consistently hold roughly 4x SAC price, I don't see a world where we can't do $50 million of value generation yearly. Real quick, I'm on UFO. So UFO in the last year has generated $4,300,000. UFO alone in the last year has bought and burned $716,000 of PTGC.
Yeah, man. Woo.
Wow.
Yeah, man. That's wonderful.
So that is exactly what Alex from Hedron was talking about having a system that has the ability to hedge against entropy within a closed system.
Yeah, think about where PTGC would be out. What we just explained was pretty much $1,800,000 of buy pressure to the asset itself. Let's pretend we remove that right now. Imagine $1,800,000 sold on the chart. Where would PTGC be without the utility of the protocol? It would be at a really, really low price. That's how powerful the machine is. And then you have to take into consideration, would all the holders be here without those buys? Most likely not. Some of them would probably leave. Would as many buyers even have bought the asset if that utility wasn't here? Most likely not. So you actually even start to ask yourself, like, how could other systems even keep up with systems like this in the future once these systems showcase that they exist? Because right now, no one even knows PTGC exists, let's be honest. Like, us group of 50 people on this spaces right now, the 10,000 active people on Pulse Chain, which is like nothing. But there's a whole world of people out there that are actually looking for real investments like PTGC and UFO. They are looking for it. They just don't know it exists, and they're not willing to risk it until it proves itself. Right? Look at the amount of people who are willing to risk revenue in Bitcoin or value in Bitcoin and Ethereum at this point. Tons. they weren't willing to risk their value in it when it was lower in price, when it was a better speculation, because they really don't care of how good of a speculation it is. They want to see it trusted and true first. And that's the phase we're kind of in, is we're proving ourselves. We're showing that this idea actually works and it's sustainable and it is a real long-term investment over time.
You know, I got to say this. This just jumped in my head. I was on a space with Panos and KR the other day, and they're talking about trading and, the main thing is core coins, when you're trading and you go into core coins, right? It's kind of like the thing, right? You lock in your gains, you go into core coins. And I just thought about the fact that, B Roots, he had that fun moment where he said that PTGC is a core coin. He said he says it's a core coin, right? When you look at the liquidity pools and you look at how the system works and how it's built, kind of like an attached alien on top of the system, it's kind of funny. You guys remember the movies Aliens?
Yeah. I remember.
Yeah, the thing attaches to you and it implants something in you or whatever.
Oh yeah, super creepy.
Yeah, but the Grays is like an alien that's attached itself to Pulse Chain's ecosystem.
Woo.
You can't get it off, and it's burnt liquidity. And we just ran the numbers with $100 million injected. That's a 500x. Well, that makes the liquidity web between UFO and PTGC probably somewhere in the ballpark of what, Zen? At a 500x. It's insanity, the amount of revenue generation at that point. Now, at that point, just kind of looking out into the future a little bit, just dreaming, just kind of understanding that we all have, 2 years of truly understanding how this system mathematically works. It's one of the reasons why I love the Grays currency, because there's no bullshit. Every one of you can come up here that's in here that's listening to my voice. You know that we've drilled down. We've watched this system. We've collected all the KPIs. We've collected all the data. We know how the system works, right? And my God, at a 50 to a 500x from here, the LPs revaluing, you're not going to have people wanting to go into the course. You're going to have people wanting to go into the core.
Because there'd be about $5 billion worth of LP between the two tokens.
It would be astra-freaking-nominal. This would end up being one of those scenarios where hindsight was freaking 2020. In other words, like, you always talk about the store of value on chain, Zen. At that point, it's become that times so much more, right?
Well, we've even talked about, a lot of people kind of have an idea in their mind, like, hey, I'm going to make this amount of money off of crypto, and then I need to go put that value in something that pays me passively. Because a lot of crypto assets don't pay you passively. And if they do pay you passively, it usually comes from inflation or giving up custody and stuff like that. So you even can start asking yourself the scenario of, let's say someone isn't in PTGC, but they end up making it out pretty good on another asset on chain. Could be PulseX Pulse if Richard doesn't have any APY built into those systems in any way. Because I know that there's APY built into providing liquidity, but sometimes the impermanent loss isn't even worth the APY. So I get it, but kind of don't get it. I think there is a lot of benefit to the single-sided staking model like PTDC, where you don't have the situation where you're exposed to impermanent loss, but you are still earning APY with complete self-custody. I think this is a feature that people are looking at. And I do think there's going to be a certain situation where people do want to keep their value on chain because of its decentralization. Like, a lot of people come to crypto because the real world assets kind of suck. You know what I mean? Like, where are you going to go? The S&P 500 and make 50% gains in the last 5 years, but inflation was 50%, so you technically made zero? That's not APY. That means you literally didn't make anything. There's no passive income there. You didn't get any more S&P for holding S&P. With PTDC, you're truly receiving not only price appreciation, but you're also getting more tokens dripping into your wallet the entire time. So I actually do believe a lot of people will rotate gains into PTDC once these other assets actually start seeing gains. The problem is a lot of them haven't seen gains since the existence of Pulse Chain, so they don't have anything to rotate yet.
100%.
And even the gains they do make, they kind of parlay it back into like another risky play. But if we get an actual good run here and people's portfolios start hitting some of close to like the numbers that they are looking to hit, and they feel like they don't need to risk their value anymore, because as you get larger, like the more value you get, the more you have to lose, right? So the higher your portfolio gets, you're no longer willing to risk that entire stack anymore. So you start needing a place to store the large majority of it. Obviously, they'll probably still keep hunting the low ones and, try and do quick flips, quick 50Xs here or there. I don't see people stopping this game. But as far as if they are actually hitting again, they're actually getting life-changing revenue, I definitely think a portion will maybe leave the chain. But after they get, a house or a property and they see that those passive income sources are really not that good, there's tons of maintenance, overhead, fees involved, etc. Obviously, the issue with banks, why people even started coming to cryptocurrency in the first place, I do believe PTDC and UFO are a great solution to that, for not only people already here that could make gains in this space, but also people who are trying to debank and store value on chain with large amounts. So we can actually tap into both the people already here that make gains in this industry, and then also people outside of crypto who have just been successful in the real world who are looking for great stores of value on chain for the self-custody and decentralized aspect of it.
Anybody else? Perry?
No one else on YouTube.
Yeah, I think RH, man. I think RH is definitely. I'm very happy to see RH and his activity. Was show that chart. I agree with you 100%, Zen. That chart gives you a bird's eye look at how he's thinking.
Yep.
And it's the only thing that you can deduce from that. He literally gave you the chart of what he's thinking.
12,000.
He gave you the chart, and we know from that video and from what he said, we know his plan. And he just gave you the chart of what he's looking at to fulfill that plan. Now the question is, does ETH do that? If ETH doesn't do that, then obviously plans change. But if ETH actually follows what Richard is kind of charting that he thinks ETH will do, then we're at the point where it's all or nothing, in my opinion. It's Pulse Chain magically starts increasing in price, and we start, getting into the realm of what we were all here for and what we believe is going to happen, or nothing happens whatsoever. And the idea of waiting for ETH to revalue and seeing when it was going to happen, that idea now is pushed to the side and not an idea anymore. Right. And that's one of the last ideas I have, is what I believe Richard is actually waiting for. If you look at the Hex chart back in the day, when Hex really started to make some moves, it was after ETH broke its previous all-time highs, not by a little, not just tapping it like we did this cycle, but significantly past it. And if you look at the chart that Richard drew with that bubble, that whole bubble is significantly past Ethereum's previous all-time highs, which is like a 4,800 range or whatever. And I have a feeling that whole range, that whole bubble is when some action will start to happen for Pulse Chain. And that's kind of what we're looking at now. And that's all we can do is, as we get new information, take it in and then make educated guesses off of all that information. And then do what's best for PTDC, UFO, and our community. Because that's the benefit of being in PTDC is we are not only dependent on the success of RH tickers or only dependent on Richard doing something. We have tons of stuff we can do on our own to create even more success or at least success in an individual ecosystem.
How much do we have currently right now in the most LP?
$87,000.
87,000. It's currently a $20 million market cap. So if it went to $1 billion market cap, you got to divide $1 billion divided by 20 million.
50.
It's a 50x.
Mm-hmm.
Prairie.
Yep.
And you said it's basically a $90,000 liquidity pool.
Yes, that'd be a $4.4 million pool.
Yeah, see, that's what I need, dude. Holy Moses. Imagine the revenue being generated from pools that big on like mega meme coins on chain.
I hope he tweets about that token at some point. Several times.
Well, let's be real, bro. The thing just came out of nowhere. He deployed it, and it mooned like a son of a bitch. And it's just sitting at a $20 million market cap. It ain't going any lower. It's bottomed out. You know, I'm not saying it can't, but I mean, it's bottomed out.
Yeah.
At a $20 million market cap.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have sold their positions at most that were gonna sell at this level. Like it got sold down, and really even the community behind it is completely dissolved at this point. But really quick, some green candles could magically appear on that asset, and everyone would just come flowing back in.
Absolutely.
Which would be great for PTD UFO because we own pretty much some of the largest LPs with that asset. And again, if anyone wants to access the value within our LPs, you have to have PTGC and UFO to access it. So price appreciation.
Let's see, what amount do we actually own of that? Do we got
between both protocols or just PTGC?
Yeah, I mean both. Like
UFO has like $110,000 of most.
Oh.
Okay, so PTGC has 2.25 million most. So that's 0.25% of the supply.
So we have like 0.5% together.
Okay, that's all I needed to know for now on that.
Cool, guys. You guys have anything else?
I don't have anything.
I think it's just, it's very quiet right now. But it's interesting that, here's another interesting thing. After that leverage, after that massive shakeout that just happened, I tweeted, I think it was today, just the reality that nobody on Pulse Chain got really affected by that. right? But that just offloaded a ton of sell pressure because those longs got liquidated.
Yeah, all season is, for the most part, not just Pulse Chain. It's all the other chains. And a lot of the sell pressure in some of the top 100 alt tokens, which that usually is what majority of retail is tracking as far as alt season goes. So much of that future sell pressure got liquidated. Like all those assets instantly dropped like 50 to 80% from the liquidations, because a lot of those assets are on centralized exchanges and stuff like that. So yeah, I completely agree. Like we literally just eliminated like all the future sell pressure of those alt tokens in like 24 hours or an hour, pretty much.
What do you guys think about the railgun coming in through Liberty Swap? Do you think when that's going to start all of the action with RH? Because nobody's going to be able to know where, you know what I'm saying, where the revenue is going to be coming from if he flows it through Railgun, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I think it's definitely would be a great tool for him to use, and I do believe that Richard has his hand in Liberty Swap, because for some reason, for me, I just feel like anything that Richard tweets about so quick that's like a brand new product, I feel like he's somehow involved in the build. That's just my own speculation of it. He could be like just giving it to a team and like helping fund it, or like it might not be legitimately a Richard product, but I do think he has some hand in it and kind of some guidance in what he's looking for, and then kind of just lets them do their thing at least. And yeah, that could be kind of specifically what he asked someone to build for him and gave them some funds and gave them the task, and they're doing it. I also think it's not only good for Richard as a whale who wants privacy on the decentralized chain, but also good for other whales to come in. It gives us a good utility to our chain, a good product market fit as well, not only for Richard, but for any large player that wants, security and anonymity. Is that the word?
Anonymity.
Yeah.
You were close.
Yeah. We all know language arts isn't my skill set.
And that's a tongue twister. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would have a hard time believing that any copious amounts of capital would go through anything that's not the actual bridge, or that's not designed on the backside by the team, by Richard's devs. So, I mean, you know that one of the things he talks about is just if you have $1 million you want to go through, get on chain, you're going to break that up into a bunch of smaller, transactions, but that system is very quick. So he can just literally, send 25 grand, 25 grand, 25 grand, 25 grand, 25 grand. And we see that that's exactly what he did with 100 ETH transactions, even with Tornado Cash, right? So it'll be interesting to see, but I can guarantee you that it will be obfuscated because that's his modus operandi.
But it just seems weird the way he started the Etch-a-Sketches or whatever they are, and then Railgun is coming in November, so he could always just say like, this is all working really well, but really he could be just like pumping behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yes, yeah, 100%.
The Etch-a-Sketches could be just plausible deniability for him to do just that.
The Etch-a-Sketch. That's doesn't it have a different name, like a tablet?
I'm showing my age on that one.
Etch a Sketch, dude. Like, hell yeah. Like, you are. That's
Yeah.
so old school, bro. The
Nope.
Etch a Sketch, dude.
We had those in the 70s.
I remember them at Play School. I really like the Etch a Sketches. They lasted forever. Those things had like a shelf life of like 80 years or something.
Yeah, the red ones. I love the red ones with the two white little knobs.
Oh,
with
yeah.
Magnets.
Yeah.
Those
You had to
things
be a
fast.
master to make something good on them. You know, like if you're making a working art of that, you had to, take you a week.
Those things fascinated me, man. I was like, how does this thing work? That's all I wanted to know is how does this
Yeah,
make it?
because you had to get good with doing both of them at the same time to like make them move how it's supposed to move, right?
Uh-huh.
Looks like all the speakers are somewhere around 50 years old.
Yeah,
There
pretty
you
much.
go.
I think so.
I deny anything that you just said.
But about the tablets, guys, I think it's true that we might see Richard pump the chain and say it was the tablets, but I think the combination of pumping the chain and the tablets are coming out, and people are like, oh, what's this? And like you just said, there's going to be a batch that comes with fridge magnets on it next, right? Like, so you're looking at this thing 7 times a day. It's sitting on your fridge. How long before you like look up a ticker? And then you see some green candles, right? And then you come back a week later, you look again, and it went higher, 50% higher. And then you look again a day later, it's 20% higher. Like that's how FOMO is made. So yeah, he may well pump the chain and blame it on the tablets, but then the tablets may pump the chain.
I
yeah.
agree 100% because you cannot have millions of dollars of these tablets going out with red candles. I mean, nobody's going to buy it.
They might, like if you get the tablet, right? Just imagine you're a new person, right? And we have a couple examples of that already, but like you're a new person, you get this, you look, you're like, oh, this looks crappy, right? You look again, probably a long time later, a month later, but this thing's in your fridge, so you're seeing it every day. And then it doesn't look as crappy. It's like it's up 50% from the last time you looked, and then up 25, and then up another 50, then up another 50. Like eventually FOMO.
But again, that's with him pumping. I agree with that, but you can't be sending out 1 million of these things with red candles every day. I mean, we've had a couple of good days. I'm very blessed, but for a long time it's been red.
But like there will be just some market dynamics, etc. as well, right? Like, if Ethereum goes up to $10,000, Pulse is probably not looking so bad anyway, in dollar terms, maybe not in Ethereum terms. But yeah, I think green candles, great marketing devices. But like these marketing devices, like the actual tablets, they're not taking away from the green candles, right? Like they're definitely not hurting.
No.
And when we look at the actual cost of these things, like I wager, based on my research, that they cost $1 delivered to a house.
Nah, I was reading a thing. It costs about $15 total between buying, shipping, and then getting it to a house.
No,
Because it doesn't have a battery in it.
It's nowhere close to that. Like he'll be paying less than $1. I wager 50, 60 cents a piece, right? Like you got to think volume, right? It's not retail. They're not coming from Walmart. And then we know that the shipping, which is being done through USPS in the American market anyway, is they get half price, right? And they're small enough. I've seen the packages. I've held one in my hand. The package is meant to go in the mail, right? Like as like a regular, just like a regular envelope. It just fits under the line, the slot that they have to fit in at the post office. It fits in that slot. So it costs 30 cents a piece to ship these things out. So 30 cents plus, 60, 70 cents, $1 a piece. And then they're getting shipped in containers probably, right? So you order 200,000 at a time. Like, yeah, there's some sort of shipping cost, but it's not, it's not going to eat up $1 million to ship a container. I think I shipped a container once. So I don't know, 15 years ago, it cost me 30 grand. And I was a small fry. If I was shipping 10 containers, I probably would have paid a lot less than 30 grand to ship a container. It would, I think it was probably less than that actually. But like those numbers that he posted the other day when he talked about the tablets being $15, he showed an example. And then he posted a number, 700,000 tablets and, $10,500,000 worth or something like that. The math on that equaled exactly $15 to match the picture that he displayed. He was not saying that he paid $15. So these things are not eating up the sack bag, right? Like, maybe the sack bag paid for them, but if it did, it's not a significant portion at the 700,000 piece mark. I feel like there's going to be a much bigger number though from one of the posts he did. I think there's going to be 10 million. That's just me, but he did this one post where he talked about, here's the math for you. If you gave $10 million to one person versus 10 people versus 100 people versus 1,000 people, and he carries that whole math thing all the way up to $1 million. Obviously, like moronic, very simple math. And then, or $1 to 10 million people was the conclusion, right? And I'm thinking that was alluding, and he didn't have anything else in that post. Like, it was a completely useless post, which he doesn't usually do. So there's nothing else in that post. I think that's what he was saying. 10 million is a big number.
Oh yeah. That's enormous. It's an enormous number. Fast.
So if you can get one
portion of the American
1%.
population, right? Like, it hit all the best people in the US with 10 million pieces.
What's going on, Festool? How you doing, man?
Good. Yeah, I'm staying out of jail and off the hard drugs. How about you?
I appreciate you coming in. Yeah, I just wanted to add in there that I completely agree that, as the market shifts in our favor, just Ethereum going up and us kind of going up with it, just risk on assets moving forward. When people look at these tablets and see Pulse Chain moving up, even if we're just kind of moving up with the market, like they don't know that that's how they work. They're just going to see the price moving up. But as of right now, the ones that are going out, I kind of look at it like it's like getting a dealership for a brand new truck brochure in the mail. And you look it up, you go on Reddit, and all you see is negativity. You just see bad reviews, it's breaking down. But so quickly in crypto, literally in weeks, we can change all those reviews, all the morale. They could look at the chart, and it could all just be the best metrics that exist in the whole industry. We could have 10% day, 20% day, 30% day after day after day. They could hop on any social media platform and see the morale just being extremely good. They could see people on Reddit saying, hey, I just got in. I'm now up 50%, and it's only been a week. And I think this is going to be the true impact of the tablets. Is not right now. They're just getting out there right now. But in the future, when price is moving upwards and people are having an amazing experience with the product, this is the same as any business, right? If you deliver a great product at a great price and give them great service, they usually go online and tell people about how awesome it was. And if you keep sending out brochures at that same time, and people will keep looking up the car that you just advertised it or the dealership, and there's all these people that just experience this great experience being involved, well, they're way more likely to just go down to that dealership and go pick up that car, and I think Richard understands this stuff better than most people, and I think it's all part of the plan.
Yeah, I think I agree with everything you said there. Like, look at the last 3-4 days and how people went from the depths of despair.
Yeah.
Some people unfortunately took their own lives, which is unfortunate, to people are kind of bullish again today, right? And it was like end of the world on Friday, right? So, yeah, we can bounce pretty fast.
What's crazy is I didn't even feel it. Did you?
On
No.
Pulse Chain?
No.
Well, yeah, barely.
Well, it was the end of the world for crypto. Like, I'm over here sipping pina coladas and working out at the gym like it's Christmas. Like, it's just crazy, man.
Yeah, it had absolutely zero effect.
If you weren't on a centralized exchange and you weren't in something that was highly leveraged by many, many other people, and there's there's some leverage you can do on Pulse Chain assets, but it's pretty freaking minimal, right? And it's not and they're not scammy centralized versions. We barely got hit. We actually, the ratio of Pulse to ETH was looking pretty good. That actually would have been a good trade. Don't make that trade. Not financial advice.
I just need PTGC to hit 50 cents. That's all I'm asking.
Oh, just 50 cents.
Right, that season.
I'm gonna tell you, man. It's. I know that people think that that's like crazy,
It
but
ain't.
it's really not.
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing. You know, at the top, how far were we from 1 penny? We were 6x away from a penny.
Yeah,
right?
maybe.
Were we? Yeah, I think we were 6x away from a penny. So how much more X is it to 50 cents from a penny?
I'm doing the math on it right now. Well, from a penny, it'd be 50x.
Wow, that's some deep math, guys.
But thanks, Fast. But from where we are right now, 50 cents is, hold on, 2074. Says 2400x, man, to 50 cents. That's a pretty big ask. But I'm with you, man. I just seeing how this token has moved over time when things are happening on the chain and sometimes when things are not even happening. I'm very optimistic that 50 cents is within reach with a successful pulse chain. You know, a penny without.
You guys have a lot of liquidity paired with Richard Hart assets, right?
We do.
So if, I don't know, $1 billion was used to pump the chain, which is totally something that could happen, not that necessarily will, then yeah, your tokens can go up with those tokens it's paired with. So yeah.
Oh, reflexivity takes the PTGC ecosystem in terms of its liquidity web. You're looking at 50 to 100 million plus in LP, and that's like on the low side.
What is the main Richard Hart token it's paired against? Like the highest volume of it?
Volume or liquidity?
Volume in terms of liquidity.
That would be PLS, followed by PulseX. The PTDC PLS LP is $1.3 million right now. PulseX is $547,000.
Not bad. What about Hex or Inc?
EHEX is 50,000. Inc isn't showing on Secreto Bank right now, probably because there hasn't been a transaction in the last 24 hours, but I can find it for you.
Probably not as much.
And then Hex.
What about PHEX?
PHEX is there's currently in the PHEX LP. What is it? Let's take a look at this real quick. I like looking at the actual almost 35 million Hex. So it's almost $500,000. And then in the UFO LPs, you got 1.5 million in Pulse, 1.1 million in PulseX, 1.02 million with Hex, almost 630 with Inc, 615 with EHEX, and then you got 120 with Mo's, 270 with .PDI, 100 grand with Wrap Bitcoin. I mean, the web is large.
Which is both good and bad depending on what pumps, but with the assumption that all Richard Hart assets pump at some point, then it would mostly be good.
Well, when Richard Hart assets pump, it pumps everything that it's paired with. And then all of those pools, those LPs, they go nuts.
Yep.
They go nuts. And when those LPs go nuts, this system generates millions of dollars in revenue.
Yeah, because there'd be huge disparities.
So
between
our
all the
system
different pools.
benefits tremendously, even if RH tickers get bought up, we benefit. If most gets bought up, we benefit. If Solid S gets bought up, we benefit. If PDI the amount of revenue that gets generated is astronomical, dude.
And then what happens to said revenue?
100% of it goes back into the ecosystem. In buy and burns, liquidity pool ads, and the main pairing with Pulse Chain, paid out yield into the DAO. And the DAO 100% just takes that, does buy and burns, LP ads, strategic capital movements.
Nice. Yeah, I think you guys could have
And to date,
pretty nice couple months.
100% has been used benevolently. There's not a dime that's gone to, a trust me bro situation or, to a certain group of people. It 100% is used across the board for the community.
100% is a pretty good track record.
It's as good as you get, brother.
Keep it up, boys.
But if you take the value of the LP web that we have now combined, I think, what is it right now combined, Prairie? Do you know what the combined LP web is?
It's about $12 million.
Yeah. So we were just talking about if 100 million came into the system, and if 100 million came through.
You have that green Toyota?
What was it?
Everybody could buy
500X?
green Toyotas if 100 million came in.
I don't think I
Toyotas
did
are
anything to your truck.
100 million
But
comes
I
in.
broke the
right?
Toyota.
That's a
So
500X
oh, no,
on
if you want to
average.
come look, just to make sure.
I think if you break it down, it's like 180X for Pulse Chain. It's like a 700X for Hex, right? So if you take 12 million and you just 50X that, let's forget about the whole Moon Boy talk. Let's just 50X that. You take 12 million and you 50X that, that's a $600 million liquidity web. Do you know of any liquidity web? Or there's no asset on any chain that I know of that has $600 million of liquidity that's not in the top 10, top 5.
I was going to say Pulse, but I think, if we cut out the top 5, then it's a much shorter list.
I think SHIB on chain right now has maybe like 34 million in liquidity. And it doesn't pay yield, and it's not hyperdeflationary, and it's not revenue generating.
I'm back if you're calling for me.
Well, I think it is deflationary. They do a lot of burns, but that's all they have.
But it's not like code based, right? It's not.
Yeah.
The thing about the Grace,
it has no functions. It's just a meme
Correct.
coin, picture of a dog.
Mm-hmm.
You guys got that on them for sure. What about
I love the way this is set up. I just have to bite my tongue every time I buy it with that 5%. But I understand the whole thing. But
Okay.
still, I gotta be like, and then
I don't get it. Like I don't honestly, brother. Like to me, the 5%, it's stupid. Like to me, regardless if you're in a fiat transaction token or not, you're paying fees. You're paying slippage. You're paying whatever. And all these systems, all these tokens, they don't have any mechanics, financial mechanics built in. But if you take a position for $100,000 and you pay a 5% fee, you gave $5,000 to the system, right? So you got $95,000 in the asset. when you put 100 G's in. It doubles. You're sitting on 190 grand worth of the asset, and you're making APY on 190 grand. If it just doubles, I mean, at that point, do you give a shit about the 5,000?
For me,
Well, I mean, I'm here, so I mean, obviously, I don't. I just like I said, I just every time I push the button, I buy it because I love it.
yeah,
But and I understand.
I hear you, man.
And
I really do. But you know, like in the last 3 days, we're up 23%. So you subtract 5%, and you know, you're still up 18%. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, I look at it like if you look at any investment really out there, especially in the real world, like if you're dealing with your bank or mutual stock accounts or even buying gold and silver, usually when you buy gold and silver, there's like a 5 to 10%. I don't think they call it a fee, but you know, a cost on top of that premium that the dealer usually is getting on top of that. Even when you're doing transactions with your credit card, there's fees on top of that. When you go into Costco, there's a fee to go into Costco. You go and enjoy any good experience out there, there's usually a cost involved to have an awesome experience. And in cryptocurrency, it's definitely been the feel that you have no cost. But even just to transact on a DEX, there is a cost. There's a cost to have a great service. The service that we're kind of offering for a little bit higher fee is price appreciation, sustainability, deflation, and APY written within the code. And then once you kind of figure out that there is a fee to a great product, and that great product, you know, is price appreciation and sustainability, it's not that big of a deal as long as that fee is used for the right thing. The problem with fee on transaction tokens in the past, the first thing is very little of them did the right thing with the fee. The fee usually just went to a single entity and then they ran away with all the funds. And then once people realized they were running away with all the funds, obviously no one wanted to hold anymore. So then they just all started selling, and then that equaled more selling, so on and so forth. But as long as the revenue is used for the right thing and the system is designed in a way to where it's not just all APY, and it's actually designed in a way to actually constantly add value to the overall system, I believe it actually overall, as long as people plan on staying a while, it's a net positive. And
Zen, you mentioned deflationary APY. You kind of went down a list, right?
yeah,
Can you give me that list one more time?
APY, deflation, liquidity ads.
Okay, but another one, yes, another one is the ability to counter entropy within the system. And we were just talking about that before Fast Abdul came on, about the reality that if you have a system and you don't have the ability to counter heat death or energy death within a system, you have a problem. And Alex wrote about this a few months ago, or just maybe 3-4 weeks ago. And I think that we always have to add that in there. It's the APY written in the code. It's the not your keys, not your coins. It's the security. It's the everyone has their own self-custody. If they're, you know, it's a super safe protocol. It's deflation. It's hyper deflationary. It's APY generating, but written in the code is the ability to hedge against entropy within the system. And what did you say it was? Like we bought up between UFO and PTGC, the buy and burn was like, well, like $1.7, $1.8 million in the last 12 months.
Yeah, we bought and burned like $1.8 million of PTGC in the last year.
Yeah, and we've generated from the PTGC ecosystem alone almost $5 million in revenue. So, like, how many companies can generate $5 million in revenue with zero overhead?
Yeah, that's why blockchain is beautiful, is it eliminates pretty much a lot of the overhead and middleman costs that most companies run into. And if we can get the system to generate revenue amounts that some of the largest cryptocurrency companies do generate, like if you look at the top 100 cryptocurrency companies and you just take a wild guess what you think those companies are generating every single year, let's say it's $50 million. Well, very little of the top cryptocurrency companies that have slapped on tokens to them, very little of that 50 million actually goes to that token. Pretty much none, right? The token's just kind of slapped on there just because. But with our system, 100% of that $50 million goes to the token holders in some way or another. If it's APY, if it's buy and burn, or if it's LP ads. But it's all going back into the system. That's why I believe once Pulsechain, revalues to the levels to get PTGC into the range of the top 100 assets, a lot of those top 100 cryptocurrency companies, even the meme tokens, because they just don't generate anything, are going to have a hard time competing with this style of system because we have no overhead, no middlemen, no employees, no building, etc. And we have a lot of the things that large players are looking for as far as a product. We have scarcity, deflation, APY written within the code, self-custody, and constant liquidity being added. At that point, if Pulsechain just does a 50x, what were you just saying? We'd be around, what was it, $400 million?
600.
Yeah. And large players obviously want large liquidities, and our liquidity will be majority burn to top it. So I do believe once Pulsechain does start to revalue, we will have built into the system a lot of what like some large players are looking for as far as a store of value product. The code's literally paying you just for holding, and that APY isn't coming from inflation, it's coming from value generation from the machine itself. And obviously, users wanting to expose themselves with the product just keeps pushing the price up even more, making it an even better product, more sustainable, more appreciation, which then makes it more attractive to other big players, and that momentum kind of carries on.
Where are you at in terms of time, Zen?
I'm ready to go if you guys are.
Yep, I think if nobody has anything else, Prairie.
We're set. Yeah, we're set, man.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, well, hey, appreciate everybody that's in here. Thank you for showing up, supporting everything. Means a lot to have the crew continuing to come up in these spaces and just listening and staying up to par with what's going on, staying up to beat. That way you can provide the most up-to-date information to people when they're asking. So
Yeah.
appreciate it, guys.
Yep.
Yeah,
Appreciate you guys too.
For the conversation, man.
Good night,
Thanks
guys.
for co-hosting with me, Banana. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yep. Everybody have a good night.
Lika, thanks for coming up and adding to the conversation again. I appreciate it.
I love these stuff, man. I'm gonna go buy some more right now.
Let's do a plug real quick. Zen, when's the next VC and when is the next space?
I have a VC tomorrow in our Telegram at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm just going to be going over the Look into PTGC stats page and the floor open for questions and conversations. A lot of time, Mando hops in there with me and we kind of just chat for an hour. It's really to answer new people's questions. Again, we're getting ready for when there is new people coming into Pulsechain in floods, like we believe it's going to happen. We'll be there to assist them in learning about PTGC and UFO. In the meantime, if you guys have questions, if you just want to hear stats, if you just want to hear conversation, or if you have an onboard and they need a place to learn, them to the VCs again tomorrow at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
And then Saturday is the next space.
And Banana on Wednesday, I believe. has a YouTube. Banana, you can plug that if you want.
No, I'm not. I put a pause on those Wednesday YouTubes while things are slow, because I can
Okay,
I can get
Sunday
other
still?
work done. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Banana has a YouTube on Sundays. At what time, Banana?
That's at 1 p.m. Pacific. I do a complete ecosystem walkthrough.
Which is awesome as well, because he has the DAP up in front of everything. He's clicking the buttons. He's walking people through it. All the time I have people having a hard time with drawing and stuff like that. I can show you guys all that stuff live in person with this screen being shared. So
Yep.
It's a great place to learn as well. If you're a visual person. And for me, I'm a visual person. I would definitely check that out.
That's it. If you want to go to the Telegram for the VC tomorrow, it's at t.me/DeGray currency. And you can get everything straight from the X account. Thanks, guys.
All right. See you guys.
See ya.
See you.
All right, ladies and gents. Appreciate the compliments. Appreciate the super chat. And appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll do this again, because that's what we do. You are welcome, Polygon. You're welcome, Jim Horton. Thanks for the TS Pedro. Hadn't seen you in here. I didn't know you're watching. And all you guys, all y'all, thanks for showing up. And we will see you guys around the block. Adios. Have a good night.